what I'd like to show you quickly is a dish at WD50. It's called Aerated Foie Gras. And the idea was a mousse, a classic French preparation. It's basically trapping air in something, typically something very rich. And by the sheer act of trapping that air in it, you lighten it up and you make it not seem quite so decadent. Chocolate mousse, whipped cream, ice cream, lots of those things are foams or mousses. But the idea for us here was, how could we, using some very modern technology, walk the idea of a mousse down the road? How could we make a foie gras mousse that was different? Because part of the problem with a mousse is that it usually has a lot of stuff in it besides the main ingredient. If you're making a chocolate mousse, it's full of cream. And that's diluting the flavor. So what we wanted to do was to figure out if we could create a mousse of foie gras, or if we could aerate foie gras without adding or taking too much away from the flavor of the foie gras. So what we've done is we've taken a very traditional French terrine of foie gras, which I learned how to make almost 20 years ago, and we haven't done anything to it except we're melting it. We're going to add some very modern ingredients, some hydrocolloids, which are going to allow us to trap the air in there and manipulate the air into it. So we're going to use a little bit of agar, a little bit of konjac. And those ingredients have become sort of standard ingredients in many ways in the modern pantry of restaurants all over the world. And there's some processes that have to go through. You have to hydrate them, basically. You have to get them into solution. And so what we've done is we're taking this foie gras, and we actually have to break it because we have to get everything to a slightly higher temperature in order for these various gums to hydrate. So for a minute there, you saw something that didn't look terribly appetizing, which was hot foie gras, melted foie gras rendered out. But what we've done is we're re-emulsifying it back into a tiny bit of water with a little bit of an egg yolk added. Egg yolks, traditional great emulsifiers, lots of lecithin. And then we're going to take a bit of technology that we found on late night TV. These interesting, on the QVC channel, I came across these little tiny canisters, and what they do is they have a little valve on the top with a one-way valve. So normally when you put something in a vacuum chamber, you draw a vacuum on it, and it's going to rise. Hopefully, it will rise up real quick, and that center of that little white lid has got a one-way valve, so air comes up. And normally when you would release the pressure on the vacuum chamber, the larger chamber, it would smash everything down. But because there's a one-way valve, the air can't push that foie gras down. So now we've taken the foie gras, it's ostensibly risen, we've allowed it to cool off, and then you can see what we've done is create a very modern type of mousse that we wouldn't normally have been able to do using some of the old-fashioned ideas and techniques and understanding. And we're going to garnish it, and we'll talk a little. This is where the taste of it comes in, balancing it. Foie gras has traditionally seen either something very sweet or something very tart to accompanying it. In this case, we've taken some mashad plums, which are delicious, very, very tart plum from Iran that we used to use, and we've hydrated them in some water, blended them up with a little bit of miso, which is very salty, and made a puree. And now we're taking just traditional roasted beets, and we're going to use a very modern piece of equipment, the vacuum chamber, to make a pickle instantly. This is, again, where we see science and technology finding its way into the kitchen. Vacuum chambers are very interesting because vegetables are full of air, and what happens is ostensibly when we put these pieces of roasted beet in a pickling liquid, which is in those containers, and put them back into the machine, the change in pressure opens up all the tiny little cells and allows the liquid to go inside. It's almost as if you open your mouth and someone pours a glass of water in it, and it sort of permeates you instantly. And what's great about this is that you can make a pickle in 35, 45 seconds. And that's not to say that we're turning our back on the old ways of making pickles, which might be to boil it, can it, et cetera, et cetera. These are just new ideas, new pieces of equipment, technology, and understanding that are adding to what we already know. We're not replacing our old knowledge, we're just adding to our new knowledge. And so, again, you can see here that the foie gras is now aerated. It's very light. It's a complete ripoff. You're paying for a tiny bit of foie gras. But it's really good for us, great for food costs. No, I'm just kidding, but it's nice. Again, you capture the essence of a mousse, because what's great about a mousse is you have something, and sort of in your mouth, it collapses back down into that pure flavor, and all you're left is with this melt-in-your-mouth foie gras flavor. So you see there a little bit of the pickled beets, which beets are sweet, particularly once they've been roasted, a little bit tart and acidic once they've been pickled. The plum puree, which is also a bit tart with some salty miso added, and then the classic pairing of brioche and foie gras. We're honoring, in a way, the tradition. We bring some pieces of brioche there into it. And lastly, we use a green called Delfino, which is a member of the cilantro family, has a very interesting flavor, and that sort of rounds out the dish. So there are some very nice bitter, sweet, salty, umami flavors that find their way into the dish.